Welcome back. We've been joined in the program by Africa Director, Global AI Council, Freda Anyanwu. She joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Freda. Thank you. Let's get straight to the conversation, Freda, on this one. And it has to do with the first thing that came to my mind, which I want to find out from you. There's a lot of talk about AI, and sometimes it could be super saturated and we'll get lost in that conversation without getting the merit of what we should get. But it feels to me from where I sit, our continent is more of consuming these innovation in technology than creating as much as we can to solve our unique problem. Do you agree?
Well, I totally agree with you. So for me, I believe that the solution to adopting artificial intelligence is not to look at it from a point of fear or from a point of disruption, but also to look at it from a point of enhancement, see how we can work and collaborate with this tool to see how every of our sector or every industry, is transformed by this new emerging technology. So it has gone from being a buzzword into now the way of life and the way we do things. And that's why it's very important for us to not just be absorbers of it and think of it from, oh, how is it going to disrupt our everyday life, or how is it going to disrupt my work, but how it is going to transform the work that I do and make me a very productive and efficient person.
So let's go to a bit of specifics on how we can use AI to solve our problems. Our problems are common. We have issue around hunger and poverty. We have issue about economic empowerment. We have issues around women and girl child. We have issues around electricity, road infrastructure. I could go on and on, including security. Look at what is happening in Eastern Congo, for instance. In Nigeria, I can look at what's going on in the northern part of the country. Somalia has not known peace for a very long time. I can go around the continent to tell you what is happening where and the other. But all of this without technology, and we're not using it. So what if you want to deploy it, say, in agriculture, for instance, to accelerate productivity and production, how can we go about it broadly?
Okay, thank you very much. So let's say how we're transforming industries, for example, and specifically in agriculture, there are several methods and, including active solutions that help the people in the farm, or the people who are aggregating farmers, or the people who are creating pathways for this food product to get into the city. Now, there are solutions that can help tell how, the soil is doing, what the weather conditions are, what is the likable chance for a particular crop to be harvested or even planted in a particular season. And so these tools, if we're thinking about how are we developing them and how are we supporting people who are thinking about these solutions, it will be better for us to, start thinking of training the people who are in the farms, or people who are doing this level of aggregation, or people who are actually working in the technology aspect of agriculture to see or think differently about what we're doing in improving our agricultural sector. Now, if that is also done, we're also seeing a case where, our food are grown here. And even though our food are grown here, we're also seeing a case where we're not going through a hassle of understanding what technology is in terms of that sector, right? So one thing is to understand the sector it plays in. Another thing is to actually develop the people who are going to implement the technology tools, or the people who are going to execute with the tools that have been developed, right? So it's also very important to know that the literacy aspect of this is compulsory. At this point where we are right now, we cannot, do one and skip another one. We have to do everything. It's comprehensive. So while we're planting, we're also training people on how to use different types of tools. There are tools that help you to know what planting season are we in? What crop is going to be well developed at this time? How do we ensure that farmers are getting access to this level of trainings, or people who own farm, companies or agricultural companies understand the tools? If any average person speaks to you, they tell you that AI is ChatGPT. And how do we now take them from that level of understanding that it is beyond ChatGPT, there are several solutions. There are people who want to build solutions in agriculture to support farmers or to support the agricultural sector, which can now in turn increase productivity and also increase, our economic, growth in terms of the food produce or the farm produce that we're bringing from the different farms.
So beyond agriculture, you talked about enhancement. Let's look at education now. I've had calls to teach, and I find that increasingly more students are depending on artificial intelligence and less on, the real reasoning. What do you think is the impact of dependence on AI, for academic performance? And what do you propose to be the checks that can be introduced such that there'll be more dependence on real reasoning for students and less on artificial intelligence?
Fantastic. So I was having a conversation around this some weeks ago, and the conversation was just centered around, young people these days are depending more on artificial intelligence. Now, the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a collaborative effort. It's the human intelligence and merged together with the artificial intelligence that brings a highly efficient person. And as we proceed, we now have several tools, several AI tools that now help people to copy and paste or help people to provide answers to questions very easily. And so in education, it just goes back to our education system. Do we have a structured curriculum that helps students to understand that, oh, I know that my teachers also know what they're doing. Now, if teachers also are aware of how to, use these tools or how to leverage these tools, it's easier for also to detect when a child or a student has gone beyond the measure they are meant to go. For example, if we adopt artificial intelligence in our educational system, and you have 26 children in your class or 26 students in your class, and for each 26 students, you've been able to assess them individually to understand their level or their gaps or their strengths academically. You'll be able to tell if this particular student is doing way beyond what they are meant to do. Now, nobody wakes up and all of a sudden start downloading information that they never had. It's a process, but if you give them maybe an assignment or you give them a work to do and you can see a total dependence on artificial intelligence, you have to also be aware of the artificial intelligence for you to be able to detect it. Now, what this would impact our future in terms of the people we're bringing up from our schools is that we'll have a lot of people who are dependent on artificial intelligence. But if we start grooming them right now and letting them see that it's a collaborative effort, and nobody is being tackled for less work that they're delivering, but also they're appreciated for thinking critically, they're pushed to think about problems differently. They're solution-oriented. Now we now start seeing a situation where we're encouraging more young people to adopt artificial intelligence in a collaborative way and not a dependent. And so I think that alone will affect the level of educational system and the level of individuals that we're bringing from our educational sector.
I'd like to know from your interactions, meetings, conversations, does it look like Africa has a policy, like a collaborative front when it comes to deployment, use, and development of artificial intelligence? And I ask because basically this is like a war between America and China. So America gives you OpenAI and all of that. China says, well, we have DeepSeek. And then recently Manus, even though there's been a lot of back and forth about whether or not it does what it says or what people say it really does. But the point here is they seem to be light years ahead. But the conversation we're having in Africa seems a bit scattered. So we're talking about trying to educate our people with AI, but how much of homegrown AI are we really, involved in? We don't even manufacture semiconductors or chips. To that extent, we don't own. So whatever we're getting is what we're fed with. And sometimes it's just crumbs we're getting. So do you get a sense that Africa has a unified front or has this, coming together, what we really want to achieve with AI on the continent?
Well, at the moment, I cannot say that we have a unified front because we still have a lot of things that we need to put together. Specifically, different countries in Africa need to, first of all, see and understand the gap in artificial intelligence and the people, right? And then we secondly now need to see it as a place of a welcome idea. It's an emerging technology and a technology that has already emerged, and I like to say it all the time. And we don't have to see it from a place of, oh, it's going to disrupt the work that we're doing, or it's going to disrupt our policies. And I think a lot of the fear message comes into, like the second question that came in and said, oh, it's going to disrupt and everybody's going to be depending on it, or we're no longer going to have jobs, or robots are going to take or erase us from the face of the earth. And I think those fear messages have to be put aside, and we have to double down to say, what is artificial intelligence going to do for us in terms of economic prosperity, in terms of our sectors being developed? How would this enhance the skills that we have currently? How is this going to give us a competitive workforce? And so we haven't been able to come together and create that unified, collaboration amongst African countries.
Pardon me, Frida. Pardon me to quickly come in here and sort of refine my question. And I like your drift, but let me add a little bit to it. Do we also have a seat at the table in that sense? And I want you to speak to that. And that's why I raised the issues around, we don't even have, chip manufacturers, semiconductor manufacturers on that scale here in Africa. So whatever we're getting at best is third hand. You know, when they say there's the new, there's second hand, and then third hand, and then it's handed over to us. So do we have a seat at the table, in fact?
At the moment, I cannot say that we have a seat at the table. But then again, yes, what I would say, Africa has, Africa is blessed with a lot of talent and a lot of gifts. And a lot of these tools and a lot of these companies are leveraging on some African minds and some Africans to, push these things forward. But here's what we can do to be on that table. We need to have policies that doesn't, disrupt the system or the approach to how we adopt it. We need to start having a collaboration with people who are already building and see how can their solutions tackle critical issues here in Africa. We don't need solutions that are not African-centered. We need solutions that speak to the African country or speak to the African context. What are the challenges that we experience here as Africans? What are the challenges that we are aware of? And how can these tools that are being built outside of Nigeria be brought here and see how we can collaborate with experts? Well, of course, we have bright minds here in Africa, people who are building different things. We have case studies of young people who have even started building artificial intelligence tools and solutions to tackle different things, such as language barriers, such as, even in finance. And if we start seeing how we can develop these young people and put them in a room where they can collaborate with, the high-end products, we will now have people who are speaking in context to what Africa is experiencing, in context to the challenges that we face day in and day out. But if you say to talk about, oh, do we have a ChatGPT or a DeepSeek, is that bias still there? Yes, we don't have that yet, but we are getting there. And we will only get there if we've been able to build a collaborative front, if we've been able to enhance the people who are already in that space and give them the opportunity to be able to, think differently, think widely or globally in terms of collaborating with people who already have, the GPUs, the models, and every of those products, and bringing them here to see how do they solve our problems. Advanced countries already, they have areas where AI is tackling different things for them. But if we start to adopt it the way they present it, then we'll have a lot of gaps. That's why we have a lot of gaps. Even now, as we speak, there are people who don't even understand what artificial intelligence is. So for only those who are in the city, they get to hear it. And even in the city, there's still a bit of gap because some people just think it's ChatGPT, some other people think it's robots. But then again, we need to create that collaborative front.
Quite insightful. Great things you've said, and your thoughts are very welcome. And I'm sure that everyone listening within that space should begin to think of how to adopt it and make it relevant to all of us right here on the continent, which is, at the end of the day, what this should be about. Frida Anyanwu is Africa Director, Global AI Council. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
That's it on the program. I want to thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
And don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up next. Thank you so much for watching. We'll return tomorrow with another bumper edition. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kayode Okikilo. Goodbye.